Today, I want to talk about a facet of the strategic narrative methodology that is probably the most influential on your leadership and on the course of your business, on the course of your company. Probably one of the most misunderstood or undervalued. If I tell you strategic narrative, I bet that your mind goes in the direction of marketing, communication, something related to how we will explain the business to potential clients. That's the external facet of strategic narrative, which is the methodology that I created with MetaHelm to help professional services leaders to grow the narrative power of their business, their ability, their leadership ability to defy the normal when the normal is wrong. So we think about how could we possibly say outside of our business. Now, the most critical piece that I was referring just a minute ago when I started this video is the narrative that happens inside our business and more specifically inside our mind. This is a really strategic narrative, the narrative that goes on inside your mind, inside your heart, inside your body is a narrative that has so much influence on your decisions, on your behavior, on how you frame the reality, on how you will connect with people. In every negotiation, in every sales process, the mindset that you bring to the table, to the conversation, will determine the outcome of the sale. That's an example. If you come at a sales process with the mindset and the narrative that you know already everything, that you just have to pitch something and force something into buying your services, you miss the greatest opportunity that there is in our professions, which is the opportunity to use your curiosity to uncover the true power of your client's desires. That's an example. Now, narrative power inside our mind is called, it's our inner narrative. So I'd like to share with you my definition of how we manage our inner narrative. Our inner narrative, we can reframe, and I call this inner narrative reframing. My definition of inner narrative reframing is the practice of reshaping the internal dialogue or stories you tell yourself so you develop a more positive and empowering mindset to achieve your leadership goals and vision. Use your inner narrative to empower yourself, develop self-compassion, and maintain resilience in the face of adversity. And it's interesting that the last word, adversity, is not just a word that symbolizes and that represents the adversity that comes outside. Sometimes adversity comes from the inside, comes from inside us. When we think that we're not good enough for our market, and therefore we shouldn't publish content that we could publish because it's not going to be good enough. The adversity comes from the inside. When we feel like our services are too expensive for a client that say they don't have a budget, adversity also comes from the inside. We devalue, we undervalue when our services, our impact, when in fact we should just let people decide what the value is. It's interesting that the adversity that we have to manage with our inner narrative, reframing and reshaping, is the adversity that we create to ourselves. We put our own roadblocks in front of our growth potential. We put our own barriers to the future self that we could become, and we limit this growth. We limit it because we let our mind take over and take control over what it means to be successful. I'm asked very often when I go on podcasts, what is your definition of success? My definition of success is to be able to do what I'm supposed to do on this planet, basically, with the people I'm supposed to be spending time, and in the way I'm most likely, most skilled at operating. It's really realizing my potential in a limitless fashion, in an endless way. There is no maximum, there is no maximizing of my potential. That's my definition of success, is to live the life, the authentic life that I'm supposed to live here, is to be here in front of this camera, in front of you, because maybe that's what I'm supposed to do. So it requires me to explore possible ways that my life energy wants to express. And for this, my inner narrative should be as little as possible in the way. I find myself sometimes telling myself, yeah, I'm a yes man. I'm a yes man because the opportunities that come to me, I want to say yes to. When in reality, I can't say yes to everything. But my way to manage my inner narrative is to give myself permission to try new things all the time. Yet, sometimes it's not that easy. I judge myself very often. And you might be in this case as well. For instance, I have facilitated a course for the past 12 months. It's a free to attend course. I have talked to you about this course in many other videos. And I still find myself with the anxiety that this course will never be good enough. And of course, my courses will never be good enough. They will never, by definition, they will never be perfect. They will never be good enough. There will always be something else to add, always another piece of research to bolt on, always a better example, always a better diagram, always a better structure. It is never done, but it's due, and it's due now. It's due the day of the course. Yet I find myself judging my work consistently, realizing and that judgment probably comes from very old trauma. That was probably from my childhood, from how I was raised, my education. And yet they're still there today. And they are part of how I think about my business. And they are part of how I interact with my clients, how I shape the work, how I deliver the work. But people can see it. They can only see some outcomes of it. They can only see the visible part of this major iceberg that is our inner narrative. Inner narrative shaping, reframing. How did I call it again? I called it inner narrative reframing. Is your possibility to decide with kindness, with compassion, which voice you want to listen to inside yourself. And that takes the form of having a dialogue with yourself, with your inner self. When you start practicing that dialogue and take some distance, you give yourself the opportunity to choose the mindset you want to be in. Is it going to be a mindset of fear? Is it going to be a mindset of kindness, of positivity? Our fears are there to help us in a way. They protect us from potential risks. But sometimes we want to go beyond our fear. So we have to internally thank our fears, thank them for being here, tell them that we've listened to them, and yet say, well, thank you so much for bringing me here today, but I decide to trust the process. I decide to take me to go where life wants to take me. I decide to go where life wants me to go. I decide to let life express itself in the way that it wants to express itself. I decide to let go of things. That's a possible answer and option for you to reframe your inner narrative. That's the core of narrative reframing in the visionary leadership practice of the MetaHelm, the visionary leadership discipline in the MetaHelm methodology. It's quite of an unusual way to think about narrative in business. Again, going back and closing the loop, hopefully, we think about narratives as what we say outside. But what we say outside is only the expression of what happens inside. We shape, we express, we name, we verbally name things to be in motion. And that motion feels right when it's connected to what's happening inside us. If inside us is all tangled and muddled, then what we will say outside might also be muddled and all tangled, right? So practice the art of, practice the practice, get into the practice of reshaping your inner narrative. Start listening to what's going on inside. Maybe journal a little bit. Maybe write down what your doubts are about or what you're excited about. A couple of things I do every week, and today is a Monday. So a couple of things I do every week is that I go over my successes and failures from the previous week. I look at what I felt comfortable doing, where I was hesitant, where did I drop the ball. I celebrate the achievements. Most of the time, it's about how resilient I was against the face of my own adversity or my own roadblocks. I also celebrate my clients' work and relationships. I just did it on LinkedIn on Friday when I saw one of my clients promptly and quickly publish his first website, very simple website, but really overcoming the fear of not putting together a perfect piece and just doing it. I hope this helps you as always, and I welcome your comments specifically on inner narrative reframing, which is a theme, a discipline I have not talked about very much, but which I am exploring more and more when I see the impact that it has on the way we operate our professional services firm. I hope this helps, and I look forward to seeing your comments and questions. Thank you so much.